Welcome back. Today we will be talking about the final S in our triple S, our skull, and really paying attention to the position of the head in space as we move as well as throughout everyday life. So have you ever heard about text neck? Even if you haven't, I bet you can probably guess what it's about. Text neck refers to this position that our heads have really been put into from looking at our devices for long periods of time. This condition has really become more prevalent in the last 10 to 15 years as our reliance and use of devices increased. And not only handheld devices like phones and tablets, also the computers. So imagine what you look like and what you do when you're holding a phone and looking at it. You're most likely holding your phone down and then lowering the gaze, even pushing your head forward a little bit in order to see the phone. If you have a desk job like me, where I spend 8 hours a day sitting in front of the computer, what do you tend to do? Is your screen, when you're sitting low, so you have to, again, lower the gaze down, lower the head down. Is it maybe too high so that you are lifting the chin and scrunching the back of the neck? Even if your gaze or your screens are in line with your gaze, do you tend to lean forward to kind of go in towards the screen so you can see better? Just take a moment and think what you tend to do. And so what happens when we are constantly looking down for many hours a day, these muscles at the back of the neck, they're trying to keep our head from falling down. So they're working super hard, but they're in this position where they're too long. They're not in their optimal placement. They're being elongated. They're getting longer, yet they're being asked to work hard, making them chronically long and weak. On the other side, if we tend to stick our chin up a lot, that tends to shorten the muscles in the back of the neck. Again, they're not in their optimal position. They're weaker and not really working as they should. So our job is to notice our patterns, notice what we tend to do, and then try to bring our head back in the most optimal position. If we don't, over time, these muscles get really tight, really grumpy. They don't like it. That can cause tightness and maybe even some pain in the neck, across the shoulders. Our head is heavy, so they really have to work hard in an unoptimal position. So we'll try to correct that. And the first step is just observing yourself and noticing what your tendencies are. So let's see what aligning the head with the rest of the body looks like and feels on the mat. And Sophie, you chose a perfect spot to lie down, but I'll scooch down a little bit more. So we'll come down onto our backs. You can bend the knees, bring the sacrum onto the floor, bring the shoulder blades on the ground, and just leave the head as it is right now. And just notice how it feels. So the skull will be in line now with the shoulders, just because the gravity is pushing our head down towards the floor, so it's not going to be forward in front of the shoulders. But notice, are you like this where your chin is sticking up? This is shortening the back of the neck. So you want to lengthen this back of the neck. And if your chin is still up, see if you can pull the chin in towards the throat a little bit. You might even get this double chin. That's fine. Nobody's looking right now. And you won't be walking around quite like this, so don't worry. This is just to exaggerate it a little bit and to notice how it feels when your head is most optimally aligned. So long back of the neck. Chin should be, if you were standing parallel to the floor. Take a couple of deep breaths here and observe how this feels. So one thing that you could and should do if you've noticed that your head is really forward when you're standing or sitting is that in this position, you can start to push the back of your head into the floor and then release. And again, push and release, push, hold, and release. And you can do this 10 or so times, multiple times throughout the day. That just helps to start to strengthen these muscles at the back of the neck. And so let's get off the floor. Now we'll come to standing. And one thing I forgot to mention is, good suggestion, to go back to that pre-posture picture that we took on day 1 of the challenge and just notice if your head was forward in that picture, and then you'll know if you're habitually in that position or not. So let's come to standing, neutral pelvis, open shoulders, low ribs in. Now your head might be forward, it might not. Bring your one hand, I'll bring my left hand behind the head, push the head into the hand, and at the same time lengthen the back of the neck. So if you push and your chin is going back up, you want to lengthen the back of the neck by pulling the chin in towards the throat. And then you can release the hand and hold the head there. It might feel really awkward, but this is what we want to train our bodies to do. So by bringing awareness, as I mentioned, there are exercises you can do to strengthen the muscles at the back of the neck. But also what I think is very important is to be constantly aware of our head position throughout our yoga practice, throughout all the movements that we do during the day. The more we bring that awareness and put our head in a more optimal position, those muscles will get trained. And over time, the idea is that you don't have to think about it, that our head will be in that position just because the muscles are trained to keep it in the right place. Final thing I'd like to explore today is to come down onto all fours. And now we are adding a different challenge here. The gravity will want to pull our head down even more. So our job is to not let that happen. So if we come into quadruped or all fours, wrists under the shoulders, knees under the hips, neutral pelvis, pull the ribs in, open across the chest. Often what I see is this. People can align shoulders, pelvis, but the head, nobody thinks about. What I cue next usually is lift the back of your neck up. And then I get this. They've lifted the back of the neck up, but they're looking forward. Next cue that I like to offer is either to look straight down, but then sometimes again the heads drop, or to pull the chin in towards the chest. Doesn't always land, but 80% of the time I think these clues. And finally, what I like to do is come to a person, place a couple of fingers in the back of the neck, say push the neck into my hand, and then I'll pull their chin in a little bit just so they can feel what this feels like. And I'd like you to do that now as well. So if you'd like to try, we can all drop our heads down. Let's lift the back of the neck, and then make sure your chin is pulled in, so looking straight down. Just notice that you have to work a little bit harder to hold this, especially if you habitually like to drop your head forward. And then you can only imagine what happens when we add more challenge to this pose. If we want to go into a plank, you extend one leg back, other leg back. People are now thinking about the pose. Maybe they're thinking about the pelvis, about the belly, low back. The head is here. So again, in plank, can you bring it up? So that's really it for today. As always with these more instructional videos, your challenge for today is to observe. So as I mentioned, the first step is noticing what your tendencies are and then trying to correct them. Observe those around you. See if you can help them. Ask them to observe you and remind you throughout the day if they notice your head is forward. I know for my husband, he likes to bring the shoulders back, puffs up the chest, and the head goes forward. I'm constantly having to say, head back, head back. As I mentioned, over time, this should hopefully get easier. But I hope this was useful for you, and have fun today, just observing how you hold your head. And I'll see you tomorrow for a short flow focusing on the head position in various poses. See you then. Bye.